We need to be very cautious, and many other countries in the world are doing the same thing. If we fly to the UK, we are expected to quarantine for 2 weeks. I do think there are places that we could look at, and particularly here in BC, where we know our transmission is low, although it is, still grumbling along, as we know. So, places like New Zealand, places like parts of Europe. Having said that, they are also being very cautious. So I do not see that quarantine period being reduced or stopped in the near future, and we only have to look around us to see the risks that can bring. I do think, I can't wait to go traveling again. I love travel, and I am missing it more than anything. But I do think we need to be rational and reasonable and find ways to do it that are safe. And we have people who have traveled even just within Canada, where we do not have a quarantine period, who have turned up ill. And so the things that we need to have in place are being able to find people quickly. And this goes even when, and I say when very intentionally, when we reach the point where we no longer have to quarantine people. It may not be for a while from some countries, but even then, we need to have a way of contacting people quickly. We've talked about this quite a bit. We have that balance between trying to minimize the spread and doing the contact tracing that we do in public health to find every single person and break those chains of transmission. It's when transmission gets going between groups of people who don't realize it, and they're with larger groups, and those people spread out, that's when we start to see broad community transmission. So one of the challenges we have had forever is getting flight manifests that are usable for us on a day-to-day basis, on a rapid basis here in BC. So when a flight comes in, whatever airline it is, because this is a common problem, we can get access to, we may not identify somebody as being sick until a couple of days later. We get their name, we know where they were, but we get a flight manifest that has a lot of information that is not particularly helpful. So right now it has things like, depending on who booked your ticket, whether it was booked online, it may have a name. It always has a name, but it may be the name of the travel agent or the person who booked your flight, depending on the system that's being used. So what we have been doing across the board here in BC anyway, and other places, is requiring restaurants to keep a contact information, requiring nightclubs to have information so we can contact people if there was an exposure event. So that's what I would like to see. I think it's a very rational ask of our airlines that when somebody checks in, they need to provide a name, a phone number, and an address. An address is really important because that helps us understand where we have to look for those people. And if we can get that, that facilitates us being able to find people quickly and stop those chains of transmission, and that in turn makes air travel safer. I think we're talking two different things. So Playland, you can have a small number of people. They're not all together for an event with people that you don't know. It can be managed like a grocery store can. So no, you know what? One of the things that I look at this across the globe, where events happen, what are the conditions, how do things move, and we've had a literature review just recently on this, and we are going to be consistent here in BC. We're sticking with 50. We need to adapt to that. It's a balance between numbers of people that we can find quickly and reducing risk, and trying to find ways that people can be innovative and keep things going. And there are many of those out there. There are many businesses, there are many other events that have been able to work within that limit. And where they have not worked within that limit, and we've had transmission, it's caused great angst. I mean, we have had more than that in certain events that now we're trying to track people, and there's been cases spread across the province and come in from other places. So yes, it's a challenge when people are doing things differently in different jurisdictions, but we are going to be consistent. We're sticking with the numbers that we have here. And really, to be honest, I know this is hard for some businesses, and the last thing I want is for businesses to go under. But this is where government needs to support business as well. And we need to look at how we can find that hybrid to support safety as we move through this pandemic. It is not going to be forever, but it is definitely going to be for this summer and into the fall. And, you know, sick people don't go to concerts and don't go to movies, and we don't want to be going back to that.